Welcome to the Sample Chapter Podcast, the show where authors read a sample chapter from one of their books. Here's your host, Jason A. Meiske.
Hello, my friends. Welcome back to another episode of the Sample Chapter Podcast. I'm your host, Jason A. Meiske, and I'm having a good summer. How about you? Is it going well? Are you getting lots of good things done? You going on any trips or anything? How's your reading? Your summer reading? Do you have any plans? Or did you have plans for lots of stories? Hopefully you found something to read from one of the stories that, one of our feature authors. We're up to 26 authors now that we've had on this show, and countless fantastic stories from each and every one of them. So hopefully you found one that you've enjoyed. If you have, make sure you leave a review. Go on to Goodreads or Amazon or both. See, and that's something that I like to do. I think I've talked about it before, but that's one of the things I like to do is, especially if I'm reading something on e-reader, it's already plugged into Goodreads, and that's part of Amazon. Once you're done, it's right there simple. It comes up for you already saying, hey, rate this, give a little rating, give a little comment what you thought of the book. And it's just that easy. And if that doesn't pop up, if it's not tied in together, it's really easy to go into one of them. Go to Amazon or Goodreads or wherever. You write your review, and then you just copy and you paste it into the other. Because it's great. Some people really like Goodreads. Some people really like Amazon. Some people like both, like me. And then there's other methods out there. So yeah, I highly recommend anytime you read a book, make sure you leave a review. It says something about you. It says something for the author and for other people to look at and see, oh, well, this person thought this book was fantastic. This person thought it was okay. And I think it just, it adds that much more credence to what an author, all the work that the author has put into it. So don't forget to leave a review, people. And it's a good guaranteed way to make an author's day when they open up Amazon or whatever and see that, I got another rating on there. So, I had a good time over the weekend because I forgot that I was going to get away for a while. But while I was gone, I did a little bit of antiquing, and, seeing some of these antiques and how fragile they are, it got me thinking about our sponsor. How you like that segue? U-Store All of Warrensburg, Missouri. They are the best place you can find for self-storage. Now, the reason the antiques got me thinking about them is because of their delicate nature of some of the antiques that I found, whether it was old cloth or wood or whatever. And U-Store All has climate control. Now, not just climate control in that, there's an air conditioner over the corner. No. They have premier climate control. It's air conditioned, it is heated, and it has dehumidification. So it's removing that moisture from the air, so it's not getting into your antique wood, making it swell, making it shrink, as the temperatures outside go back and forth. And I don't know about where you live, but here in Missouri, we've got a lot of humidity lately. And here before long, that humidity is going to go away, and it's going to start getting really dry again for a while. Here as we approach August. And, oh man, if you're going to store some antiques, you got some clothes or furniture or even some photographs, some photo albums. If you got some photo albums from family members that are old and they got old pictures of family in there, man, you got to take care of those things. You got to make sure they're going to be kept somewhere safe and away from all the humidity so that they don't stick. So check out U-Store All online at ustoreall.net. There's the letter U, STORALL.net. I also want to thank our host site, Podcast Garden, for helping me put this show on. They do have all of our episodes online. They put it out to iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, wherever it is that you're listening to this show. So they are a fantastic service. They have a ton of other shows on there. If you're interested in finding other shows, be sure to go to podcastgarden.com, and you can find just any number of different kinds of shows on there. If you're interested in starting your own show, make sure to, once again, go to podcastgarden.com, and you can start up your first month for free. Check it out, podcastgarden.com. Our author today is Leslie Pietrzyk. She is a multiple award-winning writer, including winner of the Drew Hines Literature Award. She is a writing teacher coming out of North Carolina. I had a blast talking to her, and we had a lot of fun because some of her work that one of her books, and in fact the book that she's going to read today, revolves around stories from the early 80s that I remember growing up, things that happened. So this was, this was a real treat. But we got to talk about all of her other books, and then her new one that just came out, Silver Girl. You want to make sure you check out Leslie at her website is absolutely the best place you can find her. So I'm gonna go over. She's got a last name like mine. It's really wild and out there. So I'm gonna spell it out for you here. So her website is her name. It's Leslie, Leslie, and her last name is Pietrzyk. It's PIETRZYK.com. So if you didn't catch that, hit that little 15-second back button on your player, and you can hear that again. Or you can go online and check it out. I'm going to have links to all of this on there. Now, her website is the best place to find everything that you want to know about her, because it's got links to her Amazon, it's got links to her Facebook, her Twitter, her blog, which is Work in Progress. Very cool name. But she's also got on there, though, you definitely want to check out the website, because she's also got recipes on there. And, oh man, the latest one, she's got a chicken recipe that, I can't wait to try this out. This looks really good. But anyway, so I'm not going to talk too much about it. I want to get us on over to the show with Leslie, and you can hear all about all of her wonderful books and including her newest one, Silver Girl. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to get you on over to Leslie Pietrzyk. Welcome back, friends. It's another episode of the Sample Chapter Podcast. My guest today is Leslie Pietrzyk. Did I say that right?
You did, yes.
Oh, fantastic. All right. You have a last name like mine, except mine looks nothing like how it's pronounced. So I understand your grief. But welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. My name is Polish, so even though it's pronounced Pietrzyk, there's a Z in it. That's why Jason is confused.
Oh, okay. Yep. See, and mine's German, and it used to have a few extra letters in there that,
yeah.
Unfortunately, my ancestors took that out. So, so I'm so happy that you came on. Tell the listeners a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am one of those kids who grew up loving to read, always wanting to be a writer. So, yay, that's what I am. I'm the author of 3 novels and a collection of short stories. My most recent book is called Silver Girl, and it came out in February 2018, and it is set in Chicago in the 1980s during the time of the Tylenol murders, and it's about a really complicated, insular, kind of challenging friendship between two best friends, 2 college girls.
I'm showing my age a little bit because I remember that.
Oh, the Tylenol murders? Yeah. Yes.
So
it was a scary time. And what I like to tell people about it now is that, maybe not everybody is as old as we are. So do you want me to give a quick little description of what happened during the Tylenol murders?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
Yeah. So this was in 1982. And in the city of Chicago, all of a sudden, these people sort of started dropping dead mysteriously. And what it turned out was happening is that somebody had taken bottles of Tylenol capsules, because that's when you could buy pills off on the counter, over the counter, in capsule form, and there was no protective packaging. So the murderer was taking these capsules, dumping out the Tylenol, putting cyanide in them, and then returning them to the shelves. And people would take them, and then cyanide's a really strong poison, and they literally would just kind of fall down dead. And 7 people died. And the thing that's really amazing is, to this day, no one has been convicted of that crime. That's what people are really surprised about. And now, of course, there's all this protective packaging around bottles and so on. And this is why that packaging exists.
You know, I think I completely forgot that that's where the packaging came from, and
Yeah.
I did not know that they have not found that person yet. So
Yeah, there was a person of interest who was convicted of sort of blackmail. He was trying to blackmail Johnson and Johnson, the people who make Tylenol, but he was never actually convicted of the crime. And one of the reasons maybe they were unable to catch someone is that once the authorities connected that it was the bottles of Tylenol, they told everyone, including drugstores, to throw away all the Tylenol, which saved people's lives, but of course compromised the crime scene. So there was no evidence. And of course, this was also before there were, 9 million surveillance cameras in stores and on streets. So,
right.
Yep, that's the 80s. And I kind of view that as maybe an early case of domestic terrorism. So anyway, so in my book, Silver Girl, that's kind of the backdrop to what's going on with the college girls, that it's right during the height of the Tylenol murders.
That's
before
awesome.
they figured it out, yeah.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Wow. And that's quite the... So now did you... I guess we can get into, like, do you plan your books, or do you just kind of wing it and pantsing it, or was that was that kind of the inspiration behind this?
Yeah, so I would write like 15 pages winging it to see what happened, but I do think a little, when it's like 300 pages and it's going to take like 4 years, I do a little bit of planning. So you're right. So early on, I knew I wanted to write about the Tylenol murders because it was sort of a forgotten, horrific crime that really was so frightening because it was so random, cut across class lines. Like if you lived in a nice neighborhood, doesn't matter. So I wanted to write about the Tylenol murders, but I didn't want to write like a traditional murder mystery. And I didn't want to write about the families of the victims, people left behind, because my previous book, This Angel on My Chest, was a collection of stories about the death of my first husband. So writing about somebody left behind. So I wanted to do something new. So I had the Tylenol murders on one hand. On the other hand, I wanted to write about these two college girls and this really complicated friendship, because I had a complicated friendship with somebody once. And I'm in a prompt writing group, and I've been writing sort of sketches with the two college girl characters. And then the challenge was, how can I put these two storylines together? So college girls in Chicago, Tylenol murderer in Chicago, but how do they fit? And it was so funny that I reminded myself I'm a fiction writer, so I was able to invent a victim in the Tylenol murder case that sort of ties the two stories together.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yes, it's amazing when you can make up whatever you need.
I love it. Yeah, and I think I agree with George Carlin when he said, I'd rather have the headache.
That's a good one.
So, and you've got a bunch of your short stories in a collection of that. Tell us a little bit about where these stories came from.
This Angel on My Chest is the book that I published just before Silver Girl, and it is a collection of linked short stories about the death of my first husband, who died when he was 37 of a heart attack. And when I say linked, normally people might think, oh, it's the same character or, the same house. But in these stories, it's sort of unconventional because each story is about a young widow, a woman whose husband dies. And that also was a big challenge, because how do you make the same story interesting over and over again? And why do you tell the same story over and over again? So the challenge of that book was finding interesting forms for the story. So there's a list, there's an index, there's a YouTube video, There's a 40-page story told in the form of a craft lecture at a writing conference. So there's all kinds of different ways of viewing, I guess it's kind of viewing loss and grieving and how people grieve and how we remember people who have passed away. So that's kind of what that book is about.
Okay. So now, how about you've got some of your other novels, Pears on a Willow Tree and A Year and a Day?
Yes. So Pears on a Willow Tree, that was my first book that was published. And it is about 4 generations of Polish American women. Remember I said my last name is Polish. So my great-grandmother is the one who came over from Poland at in the early 1900s. And the family ended up settling in the Detroit area. And it's my father's side of the family who's Polish, not my mother's. But this is sort of thinking about the 4 generations of women, the mother-daughter bond, sort of what it means to leave home, what keeps us in a family, what tears apart families. And that's, I don't want to say you would never say that one is my favorite book, but that was the first book to get published, so that has a sort of a special place in my heart.
Absolutely.
And then A Year and a Day is set in 1975 in a small town in Iowa, and it is about a 15-year-old girl whose mother has committed suicide, so it's a little dark. And it's about the year after that, sort of what happens after that catastrophic event, how she gets through it. And the title is taken from if you've ever lost somebody, there's that kind of pop culture phrase. Everyone says, oh, the first year is the hardest, get through the year. And then this girl, 15-year-old girl, sort of takes that to heart and thinks, okay, after this year and a day, I'll be fine. And of course, she learns that doesn't work quite that neatly, but the book follows sort of month by month the things that go on in her life.
Okay. And then you have a historical novel as well, Reversing the River.
I do. Yeah,
that
is it. It used to be on this very cool literary app that then went out of business. So I think it's still on Medium, but that is set it's set in Chicago on the first day of the year 1900, which is when, if you've been to Chicago, that the Chicago River flows backwards, that really it should flow from and the reason it does that is this massive engineering project that reversed the flow of the river, because what was happening is all the factories would dump all their crap, and we're talking about in the late 1800s, so it's a lot of bad crap. They dump it in the river, it would flow into the lake, people would drink the lake water, and then of course get sick, direly sick. So there was this huge engineering project to reverse the flow of the Chicago River, send all that crap, down to St. Louis. It was supposed to be cleaned up by then, but St. Louis wasn't very happy. And so that's kind of the backdrop for that book. And there's 2 characters, a Polish immigrant and a young affluent woman, who go through the course of this day and then sort of end up meeting at the end. And they too are changing the course. They're changing the courses of their lives as well.
Okay. And so now and you're not writing full time right now. You're also working as a teacher, teaching writing.
Yes, I teach at a low residency MFA program in Spartanburg, South Carolina at Converse College, which I love teaching in the low res model. I have an MFA from a traditional program where, you move somewhere, you go to school, you have class, through the semester. But as you probably know, but the low res model, everybody meets twice a year for about 10 really intense days. And then you go back to your home, back to your life, except that you work with me for the rest of the semester, submit your work, and I respond, focus all my smart laser-like attention on you and your writing and help you improve. Then we all meet up again, and then I get a new batch of students and you get a new mentor to assist you. I just think it's a way that helps writers learn how to write in the world, in their lives. You know, most people don't get to just not have a job and sit around and write at their leisure. People have jobs and families. You need to balance time, and that's what you do in a low-res MFA. And then I think it's a good way, maybe a better way, to put together a novel manuscript by having sort of focused people reading your work instead of always going to your workshop saying, oh, well, you know, I covered that in chapter 2. If you had read chapter 2, it's like, hey, I read chapter 2. I know what's going on.
Yeah.
So I love teaching. I love teaching there. So yeah, that's Converse College in South Carolina.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I've got my writing group that we meet twice a month, and you know we don't all always get to make it, and so you're hearing a chapter and you're going, you know, I don't understand this part. Why did they do this? Oh, well, that was last week's chapter when you weren't here. I'm like, oh, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's hard. It's hard to write novels in a graduate writing program anyway. I think it's much easier to do it in a low-res MFA.
So what do you have? What are you working on? Any new books or another short stories?
Yeah. Well, I have a short story coming out in Plowshares in probably couple months, and I kind of have like half a collection of short stories that I could be working on. And then I have a novel idea that I'm very interested in, that I'm in the very beginning stages of. And I feel like one of those projects is going to have to win out, and I'm going to fully committed to one or the other. I've just been through a long patch of sort of promoting Silver Girl and doing events and interviews and living my life. So I guess, to be honest, right at this exact moment, I'm not pushing myself as hard as I usually would, sort of. But I hate not working on a big project. So I know by the end of the summer, I gotta be doing something big. Don't you love when you're like in the middle of something and everything you read or think about just sort of flows into that novel, and you just love living with it? So.
Yeah, I had done my first draft last fall, got it done in time for NaNoWriMo, so I sent it off to get some beta read and a critique done, and so I did NaNoWriMo with what I'm planning for my next story, but I didn't get very far because I got my critique back right away, and it was like, oh yeah, forget that, I'm working on this now. And yeah, but it's funny because I had NaNoWriMo from the previous year, a story I had been working on. All of a sudden, I've got both of those fighting for my attentions now. And I'm back and forth between, I'm trying to decide, okay, can I work on both of these stories? I don't know, because I would love to get 2 more books this year, but I don't know if that's going to happen. We'll see.
Yeah, I know that there are people who can work on more than one thing at once, and I can be working on a novel, sort of hate it, write some short stories, go back to the novel, but I don't think I can work on 2 big projects at the same time. I mean, that's me.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I might give it a try, but I don't know how well it's going to work out. We'll see. I think one of them's going to have to, same thing, one of them's going to have to win out.
Right. Of course, then it's always like when the one that wins out and you're like, okay, I'll work on this, but there's always that little lure of the other one saying, what about me? What about you?
Yes, it never fails. You'll find something on TV that'll bring it to mind. You're like, oh, that's how that's going to work. Okay, wait, yeah. The other one's on pause again. So, now, what is the best place for people to follow you? Is it your website, or are you in other places online?
Well, I'm pretty open with Facebook, so you can look me up on Facebook. Or on Twitter, I'm at Leslie P. Writer. And you can find out more information for sure on my website, which is lesliepietrzyk.com. And I actually still have a blog that I've had for, I think, maybe a million years. I write on it maybe every week or so. And that is called, this shows my frustration with trying to find a name that wasn't taken, because it's called Work in Progress in Progress. Because somebody else had taken Work in Progress. So I was like, Work in Progress. Great. It's mine.
I love it. All right. Well, I'll make sure and put some links to all of these in the show notes. And listeners, I gotta tell you, you need to go to her website though and check it out. Not only sign up for her e-list, but you gotta look for the recipes. She's got some recipes on there that, oh my gosh, you gotta try it out. So
That's true.
Well, Leslie, thank you so much for coming on. I've had a blast having you on here, and hopefully we can do this again sometime.
Well, I've had a wonderful time too. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to hand the floor over to Leslie Pietrzyk and her novel Silver Girl.
Thank you. Okay, so I am going to read just a little short chapter that takes place after people have discovered that the Tylenol murders are taking place. So this will be during the time of the Tylenol murders. And this, even in just this short little section, I think everyone will get to see how incredibly complicated the friendship is between Jess and the narrator. And I should explain, the narrator actually doesn't have a name that she gives in the book. So for the whole time, you don't know her name. And the other thing you need to know is that Jess is from a really affluent family in Chicago, and that the narrator is from a working class family in Iowa, and that it's a really big deal that she has made it to this, well, we'll just call it the fancy school by the lake, which may or may not be Northwestern University, and that she has, she's been out of her element. She can't believe sort of all these rich kids and this totally different world than the world that she knows. And so she kind of is hopeful that, she's been hopeful that Jess will be sort of a guide to how to fit in. Okay, so this chapter is called Jinx, and it takes place in the fall of their junior year, and they are now off-campus roommates together. Jess and I lingered at the water fountain in the library, across from the room with the best vending machines. It was her idea to hover, seemingly absorbed in conversation, rating the butts of guys bending over to drink. We flashed quick and, we thought, subtle signals with our eyebrows. We thought we were sly and hilarious, or Jess did. I thought we were embarrassing. But this was what Jess wanted for a study break, and I agreed, since it was a step closer to forgetting her fiancé. Truth be told, none of the butts we saw was better than his, and Jess had to know it. Tommy. Not wrong to think his name. Jess has just broken up with her fiancé. An older guy, maybe a grad student, sidled around the corner and said, "You two are laughing a lot." Long blonde hair hung straight down his back. His teeth held a pair of black plastic eyeglasses by the stem, so his words sounded tight and clenched. Instead of the preppy look everyone aspired to, he wore black jeans and a too-small black T-shirt printed in all lower-case with "Anarchists Unite" or not. I looked into his eyes, trying to determine if he was talking to me or to Jess, and I felt Jess next to me, trying to determine the same thing. Jinx, I thought, the way kids did when they said the same word at the same time. We were sideways from a floor-to-ceiling window, and when I checked my reflection, I stood straighter. Jess flicked her hair. I guessed she was thinking about the lipstick in her purse, me too. So I flicked my hair because she had, and she promptly straightened up. He folded the glasses and hooked one stem into a jeans pocket. "What's so funny?" he asked, saying it like he knew already. His back was to the wall, so I couldn't see his butt, but it had to be good. He wouldn't wear those jeans if it wasn't. Jess said, "Just girl talk." Her voice overflowed with implication that there was more, that maybe she'd tell him, but maybe not, that time was endless, and her flirty games could last into infinity, that a laugh now was as good as easing a tennis ball back at her with a single graceful stroke. 3 words equaled all that. But he didn't laugh. That meant something. The silence grew awkward as he glanced my way, his unwavering gaze turning my face hot, though I tried not to show it. There were things I could have said, but I outweighed him. Maybe you'll tell me, he said. What's so funny? I said, we're ranking guys' asses, and they don't even know. Jess shrieked, ah! delicately, and clutched at her chest with both hands, practically feeling herself up. No, we're not, she said. The guy locked onto my eyes. His were pale hazel. He didn't blink, and neither did I, and he said, what about mine? And he stepped to the water fountain and pushed the button, letting a stream of water arc as he twisted his head to watch us watching him, scooping back his blonde hair with his free hand. Jess tugged my sleeve like a child. Let's go, she said, puffing out an impatient sigh. I said, A-. It was an A but, which I'm sure he knew, but why give him the pleasure? He twitched his butt in a goofy little wiggle. Any extra credit? He asked. Gross, Jess pronounced. Someone else would walk away, not her. No way would she leave me alone with him now, convinced she was protecting me. Tough crowd, he said, twisting his head to drink from the fountain. Behind his back, Jess's raised eyebrows asked me, are you serious? But he straightened and faced us before I could answer. Anyway, I didn't know the answer. What I liked about him was that he didn't like Jess best, or maybe at all. I think I thought that was enough. I think I thought that was the point. He slipped on his glasses, then pushed them way down to the tip of his nose and peered over the black rims. This is a mother of a headache, he said. Either of you got any drugs? No, Jess said, her mother's straight-laced voice. He stretched wide both arms, hands posed like a Jesus statue, like we should place something precious into them. One palm had numbers written on it in red ink. It's a headache, he said. I meant aspirin or Tylenol. I gasped. You can't take Tylenol. I said, it's been poisoned. Didn't you hear? It's on all the news. TV's for suckers, he said, with a crushing but ridiculous sneer. Jess unzipped her purse, which hung at her hip, and pulled out a white plastic bottle. Here, she said, tossing it to him. The pills clattered lightly as he caught it. Don't take that if it's Tylenol, I said. Really? He examined the bottle through the lenses of his glasses. It is, he said. Extra strength. He knew, tacking that on purpose. Jess said, it's been in my purse forever. It's fine. He unscrewed the top and spilled 2 capsules into his palm on top of the inky red numbers. Someone's phone number, a locker combination. Why did I care? Trying to save the world, take the pills, I thought, you idiot. Afraid? Jess asked. I shook my head before realizing the question wasn't for me. You only live once, he said, and he cupped his hand to his mouth, then turned back to the fountain. Water arced. I wasn't looking at his ass. I was looking at Jess, but now she was looking at his ass. He could fall down dead in 5 minutes. It happened that fast. Why did no one else care? I almost hoped he would die to prove I was right. What show-offs. I remembered how Jess liked to say, half of being brave is being stupid. What's the other half, I'd asked once. Believing in luck, she'd said, smirking, so I'd understand she thought of herself as lucky. I unclenched my fists. I closed my eyes and quickly said, I gotta get back to my chapter. I walked fast, opening my eyes to watch my feet thud the floor one after the other. Behind me, Jess laughed and said to him, you know what they say, once is enough if you do it right. Her voice sounded like a pretty shower of confetti. He must have thought so too, because he laughed right along with her. In the end, it was always Jess. I knew that.
And that was Leslie Pietrzyk reading from her latest book, Silver Girl. That was really, really interesting, Al. And like we talked about, I remember the Tylenol murders of the early 80s, and that's just, man, that's wild to think that that person's still out there. So check it out online. Go to her website, lesliepietrzyk.com, and check out this book, Silver Girl. Hey, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, on Twitter. We're on all these places. Don't forget to leave us a review on wherever it is that you're listening to us, and we will see you again next week with another author, another story, and another sample chapter. Bye.